What if I told you that you are not free? Not because of laws, not because of governments, not because of the job you work or the city you live in, but because of something you can't see. A silent force that decides what opportunities you can access, what risks you're allowed to take, and how long you must work before you can rest. A force so old it predates electricity, so powerful it can topple governments, so embedded into society that most people will never question it. A system where everything you do, earn, buy, or own is ultimately shaped by an invisible chain: debt. Not the kind you deliberately sign for, not the kind printed on paper, but the kind woven into the skeleton of the global economy. A chain designed not to imprison bodies, but to control behavior. For centuries, this system has evolved, sometimes openly, sometimes in secrecy, guided by kings, bankers, empires, central banks, and today by algorithms that move money across the planet in microseconds. Yet almost no one asks the question: if debt is supposedly a tool, why does it feel like a trap? And if the world is richer than ever, why do more people than ever feel financially chained? Today's story is about the origins of these invisible debt chains. The turning points that reshaped the world, the failed fixes that made things worse, and the patterns repeating right now, concealed behind the comfortable illusion of modern life. And once you see the ending, you'll never look at money the same way again. The origins of permanent debt, where the chains were forged to understand modern debt. You need to forget everything you think you know about it. Debt did not begin with banks. It began with power, the oldest currency of all. Ancient civilizations, the first debt experiments in Mesopotamia. The earliest recorded civilization, people didn't borrow money from banks. They borrowed favors, grain, livestock, and protection. Debt was a tool of survival, but quickly became a tool of control. Farmers borrowed seeds from temple authorities. Soldiers borrowed equipment from rulers. Families borrowed food during droughts. And when the harvest failed, when war destroyed crops, when drought hit, the debt remained. People couldn't pay it back. So what did rulers do? They invented something still used today: interest. Not as a financial concept, but as a punishment. Suddenly, debt was no longer a temporary exchange. It could stretch forever. The shocking twist: the first debt jubilee, something strange happened next. Every few decades, Mesopotamian kings would declare a debt jubilee. They wiped out all debts, freed people from bondage, and gave families their land back. Why? Because the system kept collapsing. Too many people became debt slaves. Too few were free enough to work, pay taxes, or grow the economy. The ancient world accidentally discovered a truth we still refuse to accept: debt grows faster than people can repay it. And without intervention, it destroys the society that created it. The rise of debt as power, how elites turned borrowing into control by the Middle Ages. Debt had evolved from a survival tool into a weapon. Kings discovered they could wage wars they couldn't afford if they borrowed money against their future people. Merchants used debt to trap sailors into lifelong service. Landlords used debt to tie farmers to soil for generations. Even the church entered the game, controlling salvation itself through indulgences paid on credit. But the most important development came in 1694. The birth of the central bank. The turning point: England was bankrupt after endless wars. The crown had no gold left. The government was drowning in unpaid military debt. Then, a group of private bankers made an offer. We will lend the government money, if we are allowed to create money. Not print it from gold, not mint it from silver, just create it. And the Bank of England was born. For the first time in human history, a private institution could manufacture currency, loan it to the government, and earn interest on money that did not previously exist. This was the birth of public debt, a chain wrapped around an entire nation. Cause and effect: government needed money, gives bank created it, gives the government owes interest. Citizens paid taxes, gives taxes funded government payments to the bank. The bank profited, gives bank gained more power, gives the government needed more loans. Self-reinforcing loop. The invisible chains were tightening. Industrialization, the perfect debt machine. How modern society was engineered to depend on borrowing. Industrialization didn't just create factories. It created consumers, people who must buy things continuously for the economy to survive. But ordinary families didn't have enough money to buy the products being mass-produced. So businesses and banks made a new discovery. If you lend people money, they will spend far more than they earn. Home loans, car loans, factory loans, business loans, war loans, infrastructure loans. Debt wasn't an emergency measure anymore. It became the engine of the entire economy. Governments ran on debt. Corporations expanded with debt. People lived their whole lives in debt. The chain was now universal. A hidden shift before the 20th century, most debt was temporary. But after World War II, a new idea emerged: permanent debt. Not borrowing to solve a crisis, but borrowing as a lifestyle, as policy, as normal. This is where the modern story begins, the breaking point. Money without limits, the moment debt became infinite in 1971. Something happened that changed everything. President Richard Nixon ended the gold standard, removing the last anchor, preventing governments and banks from creating unlimited money. From that point onward, money was no longer tied to gold. Money became debt. Debt became unlimited. And when something becomes unlimited, it becomes dangerous. Cause and effect. The explosion, 1970, global debt equals manageable 2025. Global debt equals $315. Trillion world GDP is only $110 trillion. This means we owe 3x more than the entire planet produces in a year. And here's the twist. No one expects this debt to ever be paid back. Not governments, not banks, not corporations. The system only works if debts grow forever. People keep borrowing forever, and no one asks where the money comes from, falling dominoes. When the chain snaps, crashes, bubbles. And the illusion of safety, every time debt balloons too fast, the system breaks. 1987. Black Monday, 1997. Asian financial crisis, 2000. Dot-com bubble, 2008. Global financial crisis, 2023 to 2025. Silent global debt crisis. Each time the cause is the same. Too much borrowing, too little real wealth. And every solution is identical. More debt. Governments bail out banks. Banks bail out corporations. Central banks lower interest rates. People are encouraged to borrow more to stimulate the economy. This is the equivalent of fixing a drowning ship, pouring more water inside. And it has consequences. Housing becomes unaffordable. Salaries can keep up inflation. Slowly eats savings. Wealth concentrates at the top. Middle class collapses. Younger generations get stuck between loans and rising costs. These aren't accidents. They are the side effects of a system that requires the majority of people to stay in permanent debt. Failed fixes? Why nothing works. The debt chains reinforce themselves. Governments try everything. Raising interest rates, lowering interest rates. Printing money, cutting spending, increasing spending, introducing new programs. Canceling old programs, but every fix strengthens the chain. Why? Because the real problem is structural. The modern economy only grows when someone somewhere goes deeper into debt. Want more jobs? Gives borrowing must rise. Want higher GDP? Gives borrowing must rise. Want more innovation? Gives borrowing must rise. Want bigger companies? Gives borrowing must rise. Debt is no longer a tool. It's the oxygen of the entire system. Take it away and the world suffocates. Modern parallels, the new invisible chains, shocking data that reveals the pattern still continues. Let us examine today's reality. 1. Personal debt. Average American has $90,460 in debt. European households owe trillions. Collectively, student debt is over $1.8 trillion in the US. Pakistan. India, Nigeria. Youth debt is rising fastest. Homeownership rates among young people are collapsing globally. People work harder, but feel poorer. 2. Government debt. US debt, $35 trillion. Japan debt, 260% of GDP. China's hidden debt, $12 trillion plus. Global interest payments, $10 billion per day. Governments don't pay their debts, they just renew them forever. 3. Corporate debt. Corporations borrow billions at low interest and buy back their own stock, inflate share prices. Enrich executives, leave the public with the fallout when they collapse for digital debt. The new frontier here. As a twist almost nobody talks about, apps use debt psychology. Buy no pay later systems exploded worldwide. People borrow for groceries, subscriptions, even clothing. The chains aren't just financial anymore, they're psychological. Why the system survives. The ultimate answer, the global economy has a dark secret. If debt disappeared today, the world economy would collapse tomorrow. It's not because debt is evil, but because everything is built on it. Salaries, government services, pensions, stock markets, real estate, healthcare, university funding, corporate growth, global trade. Debt isn't just part of the system. Debt is the system. And as long as the system exists, the chains remain. 3 takeaways. 1. Debt is older and more powerful than money, from ancient kings to modern central banks. Debt has always been used to shape behavior, not just finance. 2. Modern debt is designed to be permanent. You aren't supposed to escape. You're supposed to participate forever. 3. The system doesn't reward freedom, it rewards dependence. Financial independence threatens a structure built on constant borrowing. Final warning, open-ended question. We are approaching a moment where global debt levels are mathematically impossible to repay. History teaches that when debt becomes unmanageable, societies face a choice: reset the system, or let the system reset them. Which one will the modern world choose? And more importantly, will people recognize the chains before they tighten further? If this exploration reshaped how you see money, society, and the economy, subscribe for our next deep investigation into the hidden systems shaping your life. Hit the like button so this information reaches more people, and share your thoughts below. Are we already trapped, or can we break free?